Thank you for the invitation, Valentina, Sineb, Ila, and the rest of Y by Y. It's always a pleasure to share ideas in these spaces. And what I'm gonna do for this session is I'm gonna present some of the ideas I have around 4 questions that I'll post in a bit. And there's a sound on the back. Is that just me? Thanks. So I'll share the ideas around 4 questions that I propose to address in this session, and then we'll go into break rooms so that you can have a dialogue around the ideas presented, and then we'll come back and share, have a dialogue around what happened in those dialogues. So that's a super plan. And the 4 questions I proposed to address are these 4 that I just posted on the chat. The first one is, why is learning and collaborating across generations essential to promote the well-being of people and planet? The second one is, what are the skills and attitudes that intergenerational weavers need? The third one is, what is different in the present moment regarding intergenerational weaving in comparison to the past? And the last one is, what does intergenerational weaving mean regarding our identity as part of an old tribe of weavers that has existed for centuries? So I'm just going to share my ideas around these 4 questions. My ideas have basically brewed in the University of the Environment, which, as you just heard, I co-founded 15 years ago, and also in the Weaving Lab, where Valentina, Ila, Sineb, and myself are part of, and where we interrelate. So this is just my perspective around these questions, and that's what I have to offer. And I'm very grateful again for having this space to think about these ideas and to be able to share them. I hope they are somehow useful for all of you thinking about how to weave, in this case, in intergenerational contexts. So let's get it going. I'm sure you've heard about maybe different definitions about what is weaving. In the context of this conversation, I just want to offer the following, which is, put in very simple terms. For me, weaving has to do with interrelating in order to form relationships in diversity. So it's not just about connecting, it's about interrelating, which is deeper, and not just any kind of interrelating, but interrelating in order to form relationships. So weaving, it's all about the building the relationships. That's the deeper interrelating part of it. And I say building relationships in diversity because the whole point of weaving is weaving diversity, weaving different threads of different colors. So when we think about tapestry, I think it's called, we think of something that has different colors. So the point of weaving is getting different threads and finding out how is it that we can interrelate these threads so that they form a relationship that is beautiful and harmonic. So weaving has this thing about the beauty, the art, the harmony of a tapestry. So there is this very important part of the diversity that weavers are putting attention on. What is the diversity that they have to weave? And putting attention into diversity has to do with putting attention in different perspectives. So diversity brings different perspective to things. So weaving permits us to thread different perspectives upon one, for example, the same object of observation or the same phenomena. So this helps us bring more holistic or systemic views around things and processes, because weavers are trying to provide conditions for these different perspectives to make sense together, and thereby bring to everyone involved a more holistic perspective. So that's my approach to it. It's about understanding human life. What does it mean to be human? And older people have more experience around that, have really understood much better what is a human experience. And that is why intergenerational weaving, really getting those 2 perspectives, the perspective of a life that has already been lived in many years, and a life that is beginning. Those two perspectives are crucial to really understand what is well-being. We cannot weave for well-being if there is not a deep reflection of what well-being means, to begin with in terms of human life, but also in terms of the life of other beings. And older people have more experience in both, in human life and also in the life of other beings. What does it mean, well-being? So it's got to do with the definition and the understanding, the deeper understanding of what well-being is. The second reason why intergenerational weaving is important for the well-being of people on the planet has to do with weaving in time. So it's not only about the understanding of what well-being is, but how do we weave in time this understanding? And the only way to weave understanding in time is through intergenerational weaving and learning. This is the way we acquire the knowledge that has been developed in the past. And regarding that, there is this very nice phrase that I want to, really represents what I want to say, which is this quote from George Santayana, a Spanish philosopher: "Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it." And he wrote this in 1906. And the idea here is that if we cannot know the past, if we cannot remember it through the eyes of the other generations older than us, alive and dead, if we cannot see the past through them, then we do not know the past. And if we do not know the past, indeed, we are not going to learn from the past, and therefore we are going to repeat things that we could have not repeated if we had understood the past. So we need to learn from the past in order not to repeat things that we could have avoided. So this is the main point of Santayana, which is beautiful. It's a beautiful book, this, The Life of Reason, in that sense. But the other idea here that for me is very important is that when we cannot remember the past, we don't know where we are. We do not know where we are. And I perceive, working in an environmental university with young people, as many of you here, that many young people have the belief that this is the absolutely most horrible and worst time in ever. And I believe this is not so if we are to see our present moment in the context of the past. And some things are definitely worse, but many things are definitely much better. And even if we are far away from what we would, I believe many of us see as liberty and our full potential in consciousness, as example for us as humans, even if we're far away from that, we've come a long way. And it is, even if we have a lot of violence today, we do have less violence than we've had before, which is incredible because we still have a lot. So that doesn't mean that this is okay at all. It just means that this is not the worst, and that there are some things to be celebrated, and there are some achievements that we need to notice and learn from. There is less death from war today than it has ever been, which means that life has been difficult for a very long time. So the feeling that this is the worst time ever is not useful if it's not true to begin with, but it's also not endearing and for our well-being at all. So understanding the past, the near past, things like the Second World War, which is quite near, and which was a very horrible time, it's very important for us to value where we are and value all that has been achieved by many people that fought very hard and even gave their lives for us to experience very valuable liberties and freedoms that we have right now that we didn't have before, or that we had in a very weak form, and that we still can strengthen a lot. But it's just being proud of being part of those who have fought for this. And I'll get back to that. So that's regarding the first question of why I believe it's important to weave intergenerationally. Let's get into the second question. What are the skills and attitudes that intergenerational weavers need? And I would say there that the two important skills and two important attitudes, of course, there are a lot of them, but I just chose two of each to make the point clearer. For me, the two most important skills are one, listening to learn, which is different from listening to be informed or listening to respond, just this listening to learn with this consciousness of weaving in time. And the second one is contextual learning. So that's when we're in an intergenerational setting, giving context of and finding out, not only giving, but actually finding out what is the context of that learning. Where has this person learned this? Because maybe it is indeed in a frame of time that is not visible for me, or in a context that is not visible for me. So listening to learn and contextualizing the learning are the two main skills I see in intergenerational weaving. And again, contextualizing the learning implies that we ask around it, that we learn around, that we build that context with the other person, so that we can really put the learnings into the context of where they are coming from. Those are the two skills that I find crucial. And in terms of attitudes, I would say genuine curiosity. And genuine curiosity arises from really appreciating the importance of learning from older people and from younger people. So now I'm just going to make a little bit more of emphasis on the other way around, because intergenerational weaving is not only from young people learning from older people, but also older people learning from younger people. So genuine curiosity has to do with really appreciating that other perspective, which is not my own, and really appreciating that the way to have a holistic view of my life right now has to do not only with my perspective, but also with others that are seeing it from a different perspective, giving their age, something as simple as that. Of course, it gets more complex with different cultures and different genders, but we're just talking here about age. So genuine curiosity that is landed there in this understanding of the beauty and the usefulness also of getting learning from different perspectives in regarding aging life is one. And the second one is honoring the wisdom that comes both from young age and from old age, just honoring that wisdom. So these two attitudes, genuine curiosity and honoring the wisdom that comes with young age and old age, are the two that I think are very important. Regarding the third question, what is different in the present moment regarding intergenerational weaving in comparison to the past? My view here is that in many cultures around the world, the structure where old and young people get to learn together has been weakened. For example, in Latin America, there used to be very strong cultural practices around listening to the grandparents, for example. And that meant grandparents listening to the grandchildren and spaces for that. Los abuelitos, no, we call it in Spanish, the elders, listening to the elders. And there was a lot of honor in listening to the elders. And this, the culture of listening to the elders, I feel around the world, in some places more, in some places less, of course. In some places it's still super strong. So there's all sorts of examples. But in general, I would say this is weakening. The culture of listening to the elders, particularly because of this I said at the beginning, where there is this spread culture, or this culture spreading around the idea that old people don't know anything anymore, because life is so different now and it's changing so quickly, and they don't know as it about technology and using computers, some of them, or platforms, and somehow it seems this is super important. And this is shadowing, putting this shadow over this other wisdom that has to do with life, that is not nothing to do with technology, for example. and what that represents. So the spaces for listening to elders have become, like I see some young people in different cultures, like, talking to the grandparents, so boring, it's like a boring thing to do, something that they have to be even pushed to. And vice versa, some people saying like, I don't understand the young people, I don't even understand what they're saying. It's not interesting to me either. So the spaces for intergenerational weaving have to be, I think, now strengthened or even constructed from another perspective that comes from this genuine curiosity and this honoring the wisdom that goes beyond this sense of not knowing things that are completely superficial for understanding life. Technology is important and is useful, definitely quite superficial for understanding what is the meaning of life and what does well-being really mean, and what does it mean to be a human in this planet. Uh, I think it's important that we understand that this has changed and that this is being weakened, so that we as weavers, or those of us interested in intergenerational weaving, start putting attention on how can we contribute to creating spaces, even cultural spaces, where this way of listening between ages is possible. And the last question, what does intergenerational weaving mean regarding our identity as part of an old tribe of weavers that has existed for centuries? And what I'm trying to propose here is this idea that it is very important to have not only an individual identity and a community identity, but also an identity through time. And this has to do with the tribes of which we are part of. And the tribe of weavers, meaning the tribe of humans that have been interested and attracted to interconnect instead of separate and disconnect. These humans, like us here, have existed always, always. It's a very old tribe. And this old tribe has achieved incredible things in terms of joining the disjointed, in terms of writing and singing and speaking about what is it to be interweaved between humans and with other species. So we are part of an old tribe. We are not alone. Again, I'm trying to circle back to this idea of feeling that this is the worst time and that we are alone, and instead gaining this other perspective of we are part of an old tribe of incredible fighters and weavers that have brought freedom and connections to our world, and that we can honor their work, but also feel the deep honor of being part of this tribe and feeding from that energy of this energy of this is my tribe. It's old tribe. I can learn from this tribe. I can read from people that are not here anymore and do intergenerational weaving with their writing, like reading Santayana. George Santayana is fantastic. Dead for a while. We can still talk to him. He wrote. So intergenerational weaving also has to do with weaving with the dead that have left their writings or their thoughts somehow for us to speak to them still. So these are the ideas I wanted to share with you all today. And rather than going now into questions and answers, I would love to form now some break rooms with maybe 5 people in each break room, if it's possible. And we cannot see all of you, so maybe the design is not going to be perfect, but the idea is that maybe some intergenerational conditions are in each group. So if that is the case, if you see that there is, there must be some age difference, maybe little, maybe big, but just really feel your perspective. Like, I am coming from the perspective of being a young person. I am coming from a perspective of being a middle-aged person. I am coming from the perspective of being an elder person. And what does it feel? Really, just standing from that perspective, and then just have a dialogue around what is now happening in your mind, in your heart, around these ideas that I shared regarding intergenerational weaving. Thank you, all of you, for giving yourselves the space for these conversations, for exploring with others. I hope that this conversation left you with a strengthened motivation around the value of creating spaces for intergenerational weaving, both maybe exploring a different perspective of what does it mean to, from genuine curiosity and honoring the knowledge of the young if you're an elder, or of the elder if you're young. So hopefully you feel the whim to go there and experiment very consciously. You know, what is it to really do this archaeology of excavating that other perspective from respecting the wisdom. So I hope this is helpful for you, and I loved reading from Asma U. I don't know exactly how to pronounce that, but it's lovely. It's your name, but what you wrote, I don't think I have ever enjoyed a breakout like today. I'm so glad. I'm so glad. And there's so many conversations that we could really enjoy if we really weaved our perspectives and worked with our prejudices. Prejudices like old people know nothing, or young people know nothing, or young people are all not interested in the values, and we've lost the values. You know, this is a very strong prejudice that elders, that we elders have, that our values have been lost, and that young people are lost. Maybe not, and that young people can do nothing to help us, which it's a prejudice. We also need to find our way in life as elders. So maybe just putting attention on what are our prejudices, what are things that we think about old people or about young people when we are in conversations, and how can we put those prejudices at least to test, at least. But be critical, identify your prejudices, be critical of them, throw them away if you can, and enjoy intergenerational weaving. Thank you so much for this invitation, Ila, Valentina, and Sineb, and thank you all for listening and for being here.